Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen-Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, Andrew Bartolotta.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, where we bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good in our community and around the globe. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta. Welcome to the City Current Show. Today, we have an inspiring conversation lined up with Micah Dempsey, the co-founder of Belltower Coffee Studio. Micah and his best friend, Christopher Galbreath, started Belltower when they were just 18 and 19 years old. And their journey began with a shared passion for pottery and coffee, leading to the creation of a unique space that combines both. So we'll explore their story, the challenges they've faced, their fun team-building pottery workshops, and how they're fostering community through creativity and craftsmanship. Micah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Andrew, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. Okay, so let's kick it off with the origins of Belltower Coffee Studio. What inspired you and Christopher to start this venture?
Yeah, so long story short, that's not true, but at least long story medium. It was a joke that we had in high school. We had always joked back and forth in this pottery class that we were taking together that one day we would hit our midlife crisis and quit whatever corporate jobs we got bored of and open up a coffee shop and a pottery studio where everything was handmade and everybody was welcome. So that means we're either going to die at 36 or it wasn't quite the midlife crisis. But yeah, that's totally where the idea started. We both went to a small school in Nashville for just a little bit and kind of realized that the traditional college track wasn't totally for us. And so we started renting a storage unit that we turned into a dinky little pottery studio so we could get this hobby back in our lives that we loved. And I just never looked back from there.
I love that. It's so cool how you find a passion with your friend and say, we're going to make it into a business, and you're not just going to wait till your midlife crisis like many people do. They feel like they have to go this specific track and then fulfill their passion. And you're like, nope, we're going to flip it on its head. We're going to do this first and we're going to see how it goes. So how did you come up with the idea to merge coffee into one business?
We just really quickly realized how meant to be each component of our business is. There are so many different minor tweaks to the whole creation process for both sides, little variables that we're going to tweak to improve something to get a certain result that are totally different end results, totally different products. But there's so much of the creation process that overlaps. There's so much of this customer experience, education-based customer experience, that the way that you treat people, you want to be kind and you want to teach them something about the product that they have in their hand. And same thing, pottery and coffee, they're totally different things, but there's so much overlap in the creative process that we have just found a ton of joy in.
Absolutely. And 9 times out of 10, you're drinking your coffee out of a mug. Talk about your location. And how the support from the University of Memphis and Crew Center for Entrepreneurship help in the growth of Belltower.
Yeah, definitely. So the Mike Hoffmeyer is a former director of the Crew Center, who is the reason that we stayed in school at U of M. He called us the first summer that we were open in our little pop-up shop out in Minglewood and said, hey, I heard a little bit about you guys' story. Can I take you to lunch and let's talk about you guys staying in school? At the time, we had already dropped out of college. We had not told our mothers that we had dropped out of college, but we heard free lunch and we were like, absolutely, you can take us to Las D and let's talk about it. But didn't actually have any real interest in staying in school. Mike and U of M helped us put together a really flexible course program where we got to take quite a few courses that was just Christopher and I with a certain professor. And the content of the class was, let's take a bottleneck or a challenge you're experiencing in your business. Let's apply my world of academia, my specialty, and let's figure it out and let's solve it together. And so that just the way that they tailored that experience from a schooling perspective was awesome. But Mike was one of our most influential early mentors, is still a very good friend. We're still friends with everybody over at Crew Center. Their seed fund helped us pay our very first payroll whenever we opened on Highlands in 2017. So, and U of M is actually still our best customer of all time. They have bought all kinds of our branded handmade products for different groups of faculty and staff, gifters, all kinds of different groups of donors. And so that's one of our favorite relationships in the city is University of Memphis.
I love the support of University of Memphis, and I love the innovation with the Crew Center and being able to find a pathway for you and Chris on how you can learn, but also gain, some college credits there as well. Very cool to see the synergy between both you and the University of Memphis. Talk about your second location at Shelby Farms Park and what excites you most about this expanded venture.
Yeah, absolutely. So Christopher and I became friends in high school because we were both runners, and so we spent a lot of time out at Shelby Farms as kids. And so being out there has been just the coolest of experiences. I think that store is beautiful. I think everybody did a really good job putting it together, and I mean, it doesn't hurt that you have giant glass windows looking out onto the lake out there. And so we have been so happy out there. Shelby Farms has been an awesome partner to work with. Obviously they have their own events and their own things going on all of the time, and it's been so much fun to kind of figure out where we can plug into some of those events, especially like the Starry Nights kind of events where hot chocolate's out there every year. So kind of figuring out what our place is out in the park events has been really fun, but that is a community that we've been a part of long before we started serving coffee out there. And I mean, it has been so much fun. I look for excuses to get out to Shelby Farms to work all of the time.
I definitely can see why it's such a gorgeous space. And then to mix coffee and hot chocolate in the wintertime, like that's another match made in heaven where you can really enjoy the full scope of what Memphis has to offer. Let's switch gears a little bit into your pottery classes. Talk about the types of pottery classes you offer, such as the team building workshops and then the hand building classes. How do these classes help build community, and talk a little bit more about them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the studio is a little bit more what I do day to day. That is what's on the other side of my laptop is our full community studio, or the studio of about 90 local potters who have keys to the front and back door, and they just come in and work on their own projects whenever they want to. And a ton of those folks have been through our 8-week class. So that's one of the two kinds of classes that we teach is a hobby building. Like you come in one night a week for 8 weeks in a row and really get to learn how to throw. It's a blast, but it's very focused on the instruction and the learning of throwing pottery. We also teach a ton of one-time classes that are a little bit more experience focused, more like hang out with friends, date night kind of experience where you come into clay that's already centered. We teach an intro class where people get to come in and build and shape 3 different pieces that are in like the succulent planer spoon rest kind of size range. That's really, really fun. We teach a mugging class as well. That's the same thing. You make and attach a handle onto a mug. And then those one-time classes, you just pick out a glaze color and we take care of the rest. And people come back and pick up those finished pieces in a few weeks. And I think that all of the classes that we teach, I think is some of the most fun that you can have in the whole city. But that intro class that we teach it a few times every Saturday, that 3-piece wheel throwing class. It's super beginner friendly. And I think it's so much fun. And wheel throwing has this moniker for being therapeutic, and that it totally becomes true. The action itself is beautiful. There's so many metaphors. There's so much just maturity and growth that you get from that creative experience. It's awesome. But whenever you start, that therapy is really only true because whether or not you intend to give it, it takes your whole brain. Like it is really hard to be stressed about work, to be stressed about life whenever that clay is spinning in front of you. Like it just takes your whole attention and it requires it. And I think there's something really, really special about that because we like with the world that we live in just gets faster and faster. And it is both more difficult and so much more rare, even for me personally, to ever detach from work. It's so easy to bring home and it's so easy to never put it down. And so I think that that's something that we've had a lot of fun with over the last year or so is building the daytime team building version of those pottery classes. That's that same 2-hour class for smaller groups that actually get to throw on the wheel. It's the exact same class. We can also have as many as 50 people in the studio with a hand building class. And hand building, it's a little bit slower paced, a little bit more creative, but it's the same thing. It's really hard to be stressed and worried when you're working with clay in your hands. And I think it's beautiful.
Well, you're speaking to the choir, so I definitely have to sign up for that. That sounds super cool, a lot of fun, and definitely really rewarding, especially as you are hands-on and not only have that therapeutic sense, but also being able to see something that you create hands-on with and see just the creativity that you're able to come up with. So that's really cool. I've been a huge fan of one of the region's top potters, Britt McDaniel with Paper and Clay, who recently
Yeah.
has collaborated with you. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we acquired Paper and Clay from Britt last year, and Britt has joined our team and is helping us kind of get that back on track. But the summary of that whole story is awesome. We started out, Britt decided to close down Paper and Clay, something that everybody can relate to. She was making things all day, but just didn't feel creative in it anymore. And so we started buying her equipment because she was getting rid of all of her production stuff. And we started talking, and we were like, no, the two sides of what we do are completely different. We have always focused on B2B. We've always focused on branded handmade mugs. We have a CO2 laser in the back that we engrave corporate logos and make them into clay stamps. And so that's kind of been our focus over the last 6 years, is ramping that business up. And Britt has always been focused on online sales, direct to customer. She had a retail shop too. But those pieces are beautiful. They're so much fun to make. But everything from the form to the colors is just totally different than anything that our studio has offered before. And so we started talking to Britt as we were buying some of that equipment, and we were like, maybe Belltower should make the pieces. And so we started talking about acquiring all of the molds and all of Britt's designs and all of Britt's forms. And then we got that conversation started, and we all of a sudden we just realized that Belltower should buy the whole company from Britt. Britt wanted to come and join. So Britt has joined our team in an advisory capacity. She's kind of helping us get everything on track and keep everything on track with relaunching Paper and Clay. She's actually still day-to-day running all the social media and everything of that right now, but it has been so much fun to work with Britt over the last few months and build that brand back up.
Absolutely. It's so cool to see another young entrepreneur collaborate with y'all in the Memphis Mid-South community, and then not completely close their doors, but find a new breadth in life into such beautiful artwork and pieces. So that's really cool. And because you all are young entrepreneurs, what sort of advice would you give to fellow small business owners, young entrepreneurs that are looking to expand, start their own business, but feel like they don't know where to start?
Good question. There's a few different answers, kind of depending on the phase that you're in. Like for young interested entrepreneurs who don't have any business started yet, but they have ideas, especially if you're in college, be aware of your resources. That's the biggest thing. We're lucky enough to get to give talks to high school and college students all the time. And that's kind of our core message is, this is a time in your life where your network of resources is huge, and most students don't know it and don't take advantage of it. And so talk to your advisors, go figure out like the buildings on campus that you don't know. If you've been there for 4 years and you still don't know what a building is, like, go figure it out. There's so many people who want to help. And so especially if you're in school, figure out where your resources are and start bouncing ideas off of people. For any phase of life, there's so many small scale, low risk ways to try ideas. Like we started in a storage unit. We started filling 5-gallon drums of water up in our dorm room showers and making pots for people again. For a while, you just sell to friends and family, and then you reach this or you cross this barrier where you're selling things to people that you've never met before, and that's a whole surreal experience. And then you really hone in on that feedback, the people that are buying your products, that it has nothing to do with you. Go figure out why and learn. Whether you may be completely aware of what you do really well, or you may be totally unaware of why these people keep coming back to support you. And so figuring out what you're actually good at from feedback from customers that you didn't know before that purchase, I think is a really, really big one, just to be constantly listening. But try things all the time. I mean, that's kind of that would be my main advice to anybody in that position, is figure out really low risk ways to try your ideas, and then grab the ones that stick and go full speed ahead.
As young entrepreneurs, college students, those from, high school to their even mid 30s, I'm going to throw my age group into it. I think that leaning into curiosity, like now is the time. And yes, from a young age, you think you have to grow up and be one certain thing, but to be able to say, hey, I want to try my hand in pottery, or I want to try my hand in gardening, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think it's such a great lesson that you learn so many things. You learn failure, you learn how to market yourself and your business, and to selling. And so entrepreneurship in even the smallest ways helps propel you in both the corporate world but also personally. So great answer there. How do you stay inspired and maintain creativity in both the coffee house and pottery aspects of your business, but also personally?
It's fleeting sometimes. Something that I have realized more and more over the last year or two is I've really tried to scale back how much I'm working. It's really easy to just work with every minute of all of my days. And so something I've realized more and more over the last year or two is if you're not intentional about stopping, then you will just fill your time with work. Certainly in the world of entrepreneurship, where you wear so many hats if you let yourself. And so because of that, you just have to be really intentional with having time set aside that is just meant to be filling. And that's something I've had to really convince myself of lately, is like, there are times in my day, there are times in my week and my month that don't have to be productive. I can do something just because I want to, and it'll fill me up and it'll be a good thing. And so it's been one of my core goals this year to actually make pieces again. Because I went years, probably COVID up into this year. I don't think I made a single piece for myself. Every time I touched clay, I was teaching. My wife and I have been married for a little bit over 4 years, and I still owe her dishes. And so it's been a core goal of mine to make just for the sake of making again. And so I have a few pieces. I'm not as good as I once was. I've got these, a few of these like jars and bases that I've made that are way too thick, and like I'm embarrassed to show them all. But it was something that I just sat down and I was like, I'm not making this to sell it. I'm just making this because I want to make something. But it's all about the intentionality. You've got to do things, let yourself do things that are just meant to fill you up.
As a creative and entrepreneur, you're right. We can fill our day with the doing of every to-do list that is around us, but taking that time to reflect and hone in some of our skills and remember why we're here and the passion that brought us here is so important. Where are some of the places where we can find your mugs out there in the ethos, some of the corporate partners that you've worked with in the past, tout some of them, and then where people can go to enjoy a cup of coffee at Belltower?
So we work with about 200 companies across the country for branded mugs. If that's something that you guys are, if you're listening, if you're interested in that, shoot me an email anytime. You can hop on belltowerpottery.com. And my email's all over there. I'd love to chat. All of our paper and clay pieces are online at shoppaperandclay.com. They're also in all three of our coffee shops. And so there's kind of the joint answer of all of that is everything is in person at Highland across the street from the University of Memphis, at Shelby Farms in the visitor center out there, and in Arlington as well. If you guys are out that way, that's also a community that we've been really excited to join. A lot of parallels with Shelby Farms being able to be a part of Arlington. So yeah, a lot of info online, but we'd love to see you in the store sometime soon.
Micah Dempsey, thank you so much for coming on the cityCURRENT show, for powering the good, both in our community and for working with over 200 companies that you're sharing your passion for pottery, but also coffee, and leading this unique space that boasts creativity and craftsmanship. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate your time a ton, Andrew.